Why do kind people suffer the most? Why is it that those who stay loyal, speak honestly, give without expecting anything back, always seem to be the ones abandoned first? You're not losing because you're soft. You're losing because you were never told the truth. No one warned you that the world doesn't reward goodness. It exploits it. From birth, you were conditioned. Be nice, be humble, keep your head down, and good things will happen. But the game was rigged before you ever got to play. Because kindness without strength doesn't earn respect. It attracts users, parasites, manipulators who smile while they take. And here's the worst part. You're being punished not for being bad, but for assuming the game was fair. The world doesn't care how noble your heart is. It only cares how useful your presence is. And once you're no longer useful, your goodness won't save you. It'll bury you. The lie you were taught, kindness always wins. They told you that kindness was everything, that if you were patient, respectful, humble, the world would eventually repay you. You were taught that being a good person would act like some invisible shield, that life would protect you if you followed the rules, smiled when it hurt, and said yes, even when your soul screamed no. But what they didn't tell you is this. Kindness without strategy is not a virtue. It's a setup. You weren't trained to think critically. You were trained to comply, to serve, to please. And it worked. You became the dependable one, the one who always showed up, the one who forgave over and over because you believed in doing what's right. But doing what's right doesn't always protect you. In fact, in today's world, it often paints a target on your back. The truth is brutal. Modern society doesn't reward kindness. It rewards leverage. And kindness without clarity becomes a silent permission slip for others to use you, walk over you, and still somehow convince you that you deserved it. They'll say things like, "You're too sensitive, don't take it personally," or "You should have known better." But these are just polite ways of saying, "We took advantage of you because you let us." Think about it. When was the last time someone actually thanked you for being endlessly patient? When did loyalty ever stop someone from abandoning you the moment it became inconvenient? How many second chances did you give that turned into third, fourth, and fifth while they gave you none? They taught you to be kind, but they never taught you how to protect that kindness. They told you to be forgiving, but not how to draw a line. They glorified politeness, but never warned you that too much of it becomes a muzzle, not a virtue. And while you were busy trying to be the best version of yourself, they were studying how to twist that into an advantage. You see, this isn't a war between good and evil. It's a war between the aware and the naive. And if you still think kindness alone will carry you through, you're playing a game you don't understand and losing by design. Loyalty is a transaction, not a moral code. Loyalty, they made it sound like a sacred bond, an unbreakable force that, once earned, would hold people together through anything. You were told that if you stayed loyal to your friends, your partner, your family, you would be safe, respected, protected. But here's the truth no one tells you. Loyalty in this world is not a moral code. It's a transaction, a temporary agreement. And when the value you bring fades, so does the loyalty they swore they'd never break. You can give years of your life to someone, your effort, your patience, your unconditional support, and they'll still walk away the moment it stops serving them. Not because they're evil, but because you confused loyalty with permanence. And they didn't. They understood what Machiavelli warned centuries ago. People are loyal not to you, but to their own interests. Companies lay off loyal employees with a single email. Friends disappear when your name's in the mud. Lovers promise forever until the circumstances shift. And every time you say, "But I was loyal," the world shrugs. Because loyalty without leverage is servitude. It's not respected, it's expected. And once expected, it's no longer appreciated. You think your consistency makes you irreplaceable. It doesn't. It makes you predictable. And predictable people are the easiest to exploit. They know you won't walk away. They know you'll keep giving, forgiving, sacrificing, even when it costs you. Especially when it costs you, because you were never taught to ask, what are they giving back? You were taught to stay, to endure, to be the better person. But Machiavelli would have told you, don't offer loyalty, offer value. Make them want to keep you, not out of guilt, but out of necessity. Because the moment your presence becomes optional, your absence becomes irrelevant. And when they say you've changed, what they really mean is you stopped being theirs. You stopped being the reliable doormat they could wipe their feet on without consequence. And that's not betrayal, that's evolution. So here's the brutal upgrade. Loyalty must be earned both ways. It must be maintained, not assumed. And if they won't match your commitment, you owe them nothing. Not your energy, not your explanation, not your pain. Because true loyalty is not about staying, it's about aligning with people who prove they're worth it. The dangers of emotional visibility. You've been told that vulnerability is strength, that wearing your heart on your sleeve is brave, that expressing your emotions is the highest form of authenticity. But what they don't tell you is what happens when the wrong people see those emotions, what they do with that information. Because in the real world, in the game of power, emotional visibility is liability. The moment you reveal what you love, what you fear, what breaks you, you give people the blueprint to control you. And not everyone will use that blueprint with kindness. Some will use it to provoke you. Others will use it to guilt you. And the most dangerous of all will smile, say, I understand, and then twist your truth into a weapon behind your back. Machiavelli didn't say emotions were bad. He said they were dangerous, not because you feel them, but because others see them. And once they do, the game shifts. Your anger becomes entertainment. Your silence becomes suspicious. Your vulnerability becomes an open door for manipulation. Because people don't always want connection, some just want access. And once they have it, they don't build with you, they dig. Every outburst, every over-explained feeling, every apology you didn't know becomes ammo. You're trying to be real. They're taking notes. You're trying to be understood. They're mapping your weaknesses. And then you wonder why they know exactly where to strike. Here's the truth. The one who controls his emotions controls the room. The one who loses his emotions loses leverage. You can cry in private. You can scream in your car. But when you're in the arena, when you're in the presence of people who haven't earned your trust, control is non-negotiable. Control doesn't mean repression. It means direction. It means you take your fire and choose where it burns. And more importantly, who it touches. You don't owe your emotional blueprint to everyone just because they asked. Silence is not coldness, it's protection. And in the game of strategy, silence is the sharpest blade. The world wants you reactive. It wants you panicked, impulsive, apologetic. That makes you easy to predict and easy to push. But when you stop giving them your reactions, when you stop handing over your emotional triggers like candy, something terrifying happens. For them, they start to fear what they don't know. They can't manipulate what they can't be. They can't dominate what doesn't flinch. And they sure as hell can't win against someone who watches everything but reveals nothing. So next time you're tempted to vent, to over-explain, to bare your soul to someone who hasn't earned it, ask yourself, what are they doing with my honesty? Because real power doesn't come from being seen. It comes from being unreadable. Silence as a strategy, not a sign of weakness. They told you that silence means weakness, that staying quiet means you're unsure, insecure, or worse, powerless. But that's because they're afraid of what silence really means. Not uncertainty, but calculation. Not confusion, but control. In the world of power, silence is not surrender. It's a strategy and one of the deadliest tools you can possess. The loudest person in the room is rarely the one in charge. The one who talks nonstop, who explains every move, who defends every opinion, they're not leading. They're reacting, they're performing for approval. And performance is what people expect from the insecure. But the person who doesn't speak unless it's necessary, the one who can sit in silence and still hold the room, that person owns the floor without needing to prove it. Machiavelli understood this long before social media turned every thought into a public broadcast. He knew that silence creates discomfort. It forces people to wonder, to fill in the gaps with their own anxiety. Because when you speak, people can prepare. But when you say nothing, they panic, they project, they assume the worst. And that assumption is power. Silence isn't passive, it's active. It's pressure without movement. It's presence without noise. It's the unspoken declaration. I'm not here to be predictable. I'm here to be respected. You don't need to defend yourself every time someone doubts you. Let them. You don't need to explain your decisions to people who never respected them in the first place. Let them wonder. And you certainly don't need to argue with anyone who's trying to provoke you, because that's exactly what they want, your reaction. But silence? Silence robs them of that reward. It starves them. It leaves them pacing, replaying every interaction, trying to decode your calm like a threat. Because in a world addicted to attention, the person who withholds response is the one who owns the power dynamic. Let me be clear. Silence does not mean submission. It means you choose when and where your energy is spent. It means you don't hand over your presence like it's free. You use it with intention. You withdraw it as a warning. You control it like a sword drawn only when necessary. People expect you to react. They expect you to beg, to prove, to justify. So when you do none of that, when you simply exist with poise, with boundaries, with quiet, you become unpredictable. And unpredictable people are dangerous because they can't be boxed. They can't be baited. They can't be broken. Your silence is not emptiness. It's gravity, the kind that shifts a room without sound. So when they ask why you didn't respond or why you didn't fight back, just smile. Because the answer isn't for them. It's for you. And the truth is, you've stopped reacting, not because you're weak, but because you've started learning. Silence isn't the absence of voice. It's the beginning of command. Control the room without saying a word. Control isn't about volume. It's not about raising your voice, shouting orders, or taking up space just to prove you belong. Real control, the kind that unsettles people before you even speak, is silent. It's the tension in a room when you walk in and say nothing. The shift in energy when your presence alone makes people adjust their behavior. That's not magic. That's mastery. We live in a world obsessed with noise, status updates, endless opinions, over-explaining, proving, performing. But the person who can walk into a room and say nothing, yet still change the atmosphere, that person owns the moment. Why? Because perception is power. And in a world driven by image, the one who understands that wins. Machiavelli said it best, "It is not enough to be powerful, you must appear powerful." You might be competent, kind, talented, loyal, but none of that matters if you don't control how people perceive you. Because people don't follow truth, they follow certainty. And certainty isn't always honest, but it feels like leadership. That's why mediocre men rise. They know how to perform confidence. That's why the quiet ones are feared. People project their own fears onto them. And that's why you, no matter how skilled, will be dismissed if you don't shape your own image. Because when you don't control the narrative, someone else will, and their version will never serve you. Control starts with restraint. You don't need to share everything. You don't need to reveal your plans, your pain, or your next move. You don't even need to defend your position. Let your stillness do the talking. Let your tone carry weight. Let your presence walk in front. Before your words ever catch up, want people to listen? Don't speak often, but when you do, make every word feel intentional. Want people to remember you? Don't chase validation, radiate clarity. Want people to respect you? Make them wonder what you're capable of. Because when people aren't sure what you'll do, they tread carefully. They speak softer. They hesitate before testing you. That's power, not dominance through fear, but command through mystery, through deliberate silence, through measured visibility. Think of the people you admire most, leaders, icons, masters of their craft. Were they the loudest, or were they the ones who didn't need to explain themselves at all? The truth is, you don't have to convince people you're powerful. You just have to stop proving you're not. Every time you over-explain, overshare, or chase reassurance, you bleed credibility. But when you stay composed, when your silence says, I'm not here for approval, I'm here for results, the dynamic flips. So stop walking into rooms hoping to be accepted. Start walking into rooms knowing you belong. Let them adjust to you, because control doesn't come from being the loudest. It comes from being the clearest. And clarity begins long before the first word leaves your mouth. Kindness without boundaries will kill you. You were praised for being nice, for being the one who always understands, the one who forgives even when they don't say sorry, the one who stays calm even when disrespected. And over time, you began to wear your kindness like armor, believing it made you strong. But here's what no one warned you. Kindness, when unguarded, doesn't protect you. It kills you, slowly, quietly, and worst of all, silently approved by everyone who benefits from it. You think being the bigger person makes you noble. But ask yourself, who taught you that? The very people who step over you? The ones who drained your energy and then called you too emotional when you broke? You were programmed to believe that if you stayed swift, polite, agreeable, everything would eventually work out. But the truth is darker. The world doesn't reward kindness. It exploits it, especially when it has no boundaries. When you say yes to everything, people stop asking. When you tolerate disrespect, people stop respecting you. When you forgive too easily, they stop fearing the consequences. You think you're being good. They think you're easy, and in their eyes, easy means disposable. Real kindness, the kind that doesn't get trampled, has teeth. It says enough. It draws a line. It's generous but never blind. It knows how to give without becoming empty, because there is no virtue in exhaustion. There's no heroism in letting yourself be used until there's nothing left. People don't treat you how you deserve. They treat you how you allow. And if you've built a life where being liked matters more than being respected, then every boundary you fail to draw is a silent permission slip to be walked over. Machiavelli would have told you, kindness is only power when it's chosen, when it's backed by strength. Otherwise, it becomes currency for manipulation. And manipulators love generous souls, not because they respect them, but because they know they're easy to drain. So let's be clear. You can be kind and still say no. You can be loving and still walk away. You can be supportive without being sacrificed. The strongest people are not the ones who bleed for everyone. They're the ones who know where to stop. If you've ever felt guilt for setting a boundary, that's not guilt. That's withdrawal. Withdrawal from a system that was thriving off your unprotected generosity. And when you finally say, I'm done, the people who benefited most will call you selfish, cold, or heartless. Let them. Because their survival depended on you never waking up. This isn't a call to be cruel. It's a call to be conscious. To understand that being good is not enough. Not if it's unguarded. The world respects those who protect what's good, not those who hand it out like it's worthless. So ask yourself, if your kindness had walls, if your time had conditions, if your forgiveness had limits, who would still have access to you? The answer is your truth, and it might sting, but it will also set you free. Rewrite the rules, build presence, not pity. You've lived your life trying to be chosen, to be good enough, loyal enough, kind enough, hoping that if you just played by the rules, stayed quiet, stayed soft, stayed small, someone would finally see your worth. But here's the hard truth. Pity isn't power. Approval isn't protection. And being chosen by others is a terrible substitute for choosing yourself. At some point, you have to stop playing by rules that were designed to keep you obedient. You have to realize that the system, the social one, the corporate one, even the personal one, was never designed to reward the soft-hearted. It was designed to feed on them. It thrives on your hesitation, your second-guessing, your silence. So if you want out of the cycle, you have to stop waiting to be saved and start rewriting the script. Because the world doesn't need another agreeable, exhausted soul begging to be noticed. It needs presence. Real, grounded, unshakable presence. The kind that doesn't ask for space. It claims it. The kind that doesn't over-explain. It simply exists with intention. And that starts when you stop defining yourself by how others see you. You stop looking for cues, permission, or applause. You stop softening your message, diluting your standards, or walking on eggshells just to be palatable. Because palatable people get digested, powerful people get respected. This is your reconstruction, not revenge. Reconstruction of your voice, your image, your boundaries. You don't have to shout to be heard. You don't have to justify your evolution. You simply walk differently. You act differently. You choose differently. And the world adjusts accordingly. People may say, you've changed. Let them. What they really mean is, you stopped performing. You stopped being predictable. You stopped making your identity convenient for their comfort. And in a world trained to consume, that's terrifying. But that fear, that's power. That's what happens when you shift from being a people pleaser to being a presence that commands awareness, with or without words. You are no longer the product of their design. You're the architect of your own. That means you decide what access looks like, what respect requires, what your time is worth, and most importantly, what you're no longer available for. So build your presence like armor. Let it speak before you do. Let your standards echo louder than your explanations. And watch what happens when people realize you're not someone they can manipulate with guilt anymore. You're not here to beg. You're not here to be pitied. You're here to build something undeniable, something unshakable, something so rooted in clarity that even the silence becomes a signal. This is how power is reborn, not through rage, but through redefinition. Not by proving your worth, but by embodying it. Goodness without strength is suffering. You've been told your goodness is enough, that if you stay true, stay kind, stay moral, the world will eventually reward you. But that promise was a lie, a trap, because goodness without strength isn't respected, it's consumed. Look around. The kind-hearted are often the most broken, not because they lacked value, but because they were never taught how to defend it. They walked into the world unarmored, believing their intentions would shield them. But in a system designed to exploit softness, they became prey. Machiavelli didn't write for kings, he wrote for survivors. For those who finally woke up and realized the game wasn't fair, and never was. He didn't say to become cruel. He said to become clear, to understand that power isn't about dominance, it's about direction, boundaries, control. You don't have to stop being good, but you do have to stop being unguarded. Because if your goodness has no edge, it becomes suffering. If your kindness has no rules, it becomes your undoing. So stop bleeding for people who wouldn't give you a drop. Build your spine, protect your softness, and remember, real power whispers, but it cuts deeper than any scream.